Hello, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. He met her at a food truck rally under string lights that trembled in the Atlanta humidity. Isaiah carried a tray of jerk chicken, and Lena balanced 3 agua frescas like it was nothing. She laughed when a biscuit stained her lip, and he wiped it with his thumb, stunned by how simple care could feel. She was a second-year surgical resident at Grady. He produced clean, midnight blue beats for indie rappers and church choirs. On their first night, they walked Edgewood to Auburn Avenue, trading childhood failures like baseball cards. By sunrise, the city looked new because they'd named it together. They built rituals that felt like small altars. Sunday pancakes with blueberries pressed into smiling faces. Monday playlists titled We're Fine, full of bass lines that calm blood. Notes taped to the coffee tin, drink water genius, and sticky hearts on the door. Isaiah wrote hooks on napkins. Lena annotated margins with sketches of hearts wearing stethoscopes. They practiced saying no to noise so Yes had room to breathe. When her overnight shifts gnawed her to bone, he rubbed eucalyptus into her hands and counted her breaths. When a client ghosted him, she packed a picnic at midnight. Their love made ordinary weather tender. They made promises big and plain. No lies, loud honesty, always leave the other person way back. If the world made them small, home would make them wide again. Friends said they looked like the soft photo at the end of a credit roll. Isaiah joked they were corny. Lena said corny still feeds people. She was the first person to hear his album's secret track. He was the first person to stand on the corner when she took her first call in the trauma bay and failed to save a boy. They cried together. They always stayed. The night everything cracked smelled like champagne and gasoline. The hospital foundation threw a gala, spotlights, hors d'oeuvres, a raffle for a Med-SURG wing. Lena wore a dress the color of ripe tangerines and texted Isaiah, "I'm leaving at 10. Save me a plate." 10 became midnight. Isaiah washed dishes, replaying a voice note where she whispered, "You're my anchor." At 12:37, his phone rang, frantic, raw. Her voice came in pieces. "Zay, please. I need you. Oh God, I hit somebody. It was fast. I panicked. I'm on Pryor, near the mural. I can't lose everything. Please come." He drove like prayer, hazard lights tasting the night. He found her car crooked by the curb, front bumper shivering. She stood a step away, shaking, mascara track like rain. A cyclist lay still 30 yards back, a tangle of reflective tape, and spilled groceries that glowed like jellyfish. There were no sirens yet, only an alley cat watching like a witness. "I called 911, Lena said, palms raised, as if the sky needed proof. "But I had champagne, my badge. I can't, my program, my license. Isaiah, please." His mouth tasted batteries. He checked for a pulse. The night gave him nothing. He cupped her face, tried to build a room inside his voice. "You're going to tell them the truth. You stayed. You called. It was an accident." She shook her head so hard the earrings flashed. "They'll make it murder in the papers. The family foundation. The scholarship. I will lose everything I worked for. I can save people if I stay. Zay, you can handle." She stopped at the edge of the lie. Neither had permission to speak. He knew what she meant. A record would break his career. It wouldn't yank a license from his grip. He felt the trap. Sirens began like a faraway argument. Her fingers clawed his sleeve. "Please, baby. Please. I swear I will spend the rest of my life making it right. I'll put money on your books, call every day, fight appeals. I will not let you drown. Please." He imagined her in blue scrubs, saving a child he'd never meet because she still had a badge. He imagined her in orange, wrists bare, eyes turned to floor. He chose the first image and hated himself for being able to choose. "Go," he said. "Get in my car. Go 2 blocks. Wait. Breathe." He stood in the street when the cruisers rolled up, hands visible, voice gentle. "I'm the driver," he said. "I called." He said the verb slowly like unpacking glass. An officer moved him to the curb, and the night became clipboards, cones, and questions that clanged against each other. Lena watched from half a block away, small behind the wheel of his car, as if crouching would turn her invisible. He kept looking at the groceries bleeding onto the asphalt and thought about the boy she couldn't save last month, how she took it personal when the world refused. He signed statements with hands that didn't feel attached. They took his phone and his belt. He learned the inside temperature of holding cells and the way a fluorescent hum could flatten the brain. At dawn, he asked for a lawyer. By afternoon, he asked for water. Evening brought the kind of tired that makes grammar pointless. He didn't ask for her. He believed in them harder than hunger. She arrived finally, eyes red, with a public defender and a promise. I'll fix it. I'll sell the car. I'll tell them. The public defender's eyes made parentheses around speech. Not yet. Not yet became strategy. Strategy braided itself into postponements. Postponements braided themselves into winter. The cyclist family wanted blood, called justice. The district attorney wanted a narrative that fit. The paper wrote a headline using the word dragged. Isaiah's account, honest and unfancy, sounded like defeat beside the medical examiner's precision. The attorney said, "We can push for manslaughter with mitigation." Isaiah asked how mitigation tasted. Like time, the lawyer said. He looked for Lena in the gallery at every hearing. Sometimes she was there, knuckles white around a notebook. Sometimes she was at the hospital, saving strangers. He pled to avoid the coin toss of a jury. 12 years with the possibility of parole. A sentence handed down in a room that smelled like paper, power, and old air. He looked for her when the deputies touched his elbows. She stood and mouthed, "I love you." He believed her. He believed her so hard his chest ached like a pulled muscle. As they led him away, the cyclist sister said, "I hope somebody loves you enough to tell you the truth." He wanted to turn around and say, "He does," meaning the God he only half trusted. He walked. Prison remade the calendar. Time arrived in trays, counts, and a library's hours. Isaiah learned to fold his life into a cubby, to keep socks inside of socks, to make sugar feel like a holiday. He drafted beats in his head, counting bars from the scrape of chairs. Lena called, shaky, then steady, then on schedule. She wrote letters decorated with stethoscopes and hearts wearing sneakers. She sent photos of sunrises from the hospital roof. He taped everything to the cinder block wall. When she could visit, she wore gray and carried hope like contraband. "I'm here," she said. "Always." The first year, she came every other week. The second, once a month. The third, residency plus research plus grant proposals became a weather system nobody could forecast. Calls shortened. Letters leaned on boilerplate. "Stay strong. I'm fighting." He learned to read silence like it was underlined. A CO delivered a manila envelope. Articles about a young surgeon featured in a glossy magazine. Her smile lighter than any he'd seen her wear at home. He showed the pages to the bunk above. "That's my girl." The bunkmate said, "Proud of you, brother." Isaiah held both pride and salt in the same hand. He asked about appeals and Innocence Project intakes. She said, "We're not ready." He asked about the cyclist family. She donated anonymously to a memorial fund. He asked about the night itself. She said, "It lives in my throat." When his mother died, and he couldn't go to the funeral, Lena cried like it was her mother, too. The chaplain said grief is proof that love has weight. Isaiah carved his mother's initials into the back of a note card and hid it behind the bookshelf. He started teaching a music class for men who kept tempo better than hope. The 5th year, a rumor traveled the tier. Someone had seen a photo online. Lena had a fundraiser beside a hospital administrator with a jawline that looked store-bought. Isaiah Googled on a cheap kiosk and found angled smiles, bright ties, her dress tasteful in a way he could not afford to love. When he asked, she said, "He's good for the program. He's helping me build a surgical initiative. Don't spin." He didn't want to spin. He wanted the truth to sit up straight. She moved the call along like a nurse changing gauze. "I love you," she said, and hung up first. The worst letter arrived as invitation stock. White, thick, smug. He thought it was another award announcement until he read the script. "Join us as we celebrate Lena and Andrew." The date was 3 months out. Church name like a dare. No note. No explanation. No apology. He took it to CO, who read it twice, as if a second pass might untie the knot. "You want to go to mailroom or medical?" the officer asked. Isaiah said library, and walked himself there on legs that surprised him by working. He sat under a vent and shook like a small storm. He did not call. He did not write. He did not send the invitation back torn into confetti. He let the absence do the speaking he could not risk. In the quiet, something hard and clean rose, a refusal to be the archive of someone else's lies. He began a petition for post-conviction relief, not because he believed the system would suddenly bloom with mercy, but because the truth deserved paperwork. From the prison library, he learned about crash data modules, body shop invoices, neighborhood doorbells that witnessed more than they meant to. He made lists like ropes. He pulled. His sister, Nia, became his outside hands. She filed requests. She knocked on doors. She found the bodega camera on Pryor still saving footage to an old hard drive because the owner forgot how to erase. She copied the file that showed a tangerine dress stepping from the driver's side before disappearing into the dark. She located the body shop invoice from the week after crash, the work order written to Lena's address, paid in cash. She found an Uber receipt on Isaiah's email from that night. He had taken a ride to the gala to pick her up, time-stamped. She brought everything to a not-for-profit clinic with law students who smelled like coffee and zeal. They wrote memos. They drafted a motion. They hunted down the 911 call, where Lena's voice is clearly heard before Isaiah's. 2 panic callers, not one. The handwriting expert matched her initials on the body shop form. The DA's office, under new leadership, agreed to review. The cyclist sister came to a conference room and sat with Nia, crying a quiet that turned into heat. "I wanted the truth," she said. "I asked for truth when they wrote murder next to my brother's name." In a courtroom that looked the same, but felt less cruel, the judge read the words "Actual Innocence Review." The air trembled. Lena sat 2 rows back, a scarf wound too tight at her throat. Andrew did not come. The motion spread across the table. A map leading back to the corner with groceries spilled like coins. The DA's investigator testified about the video and the car. Isaiah kept his eyes on the wood grain until it steadied him. When the judge vacated his conviction, the room did not clap. It exhaled. 5 men in shackles flinched from habit. Isaiah's hand shook free. He walked out into light that felt like a conspiracy. The air moved against his face, and he cried because even wind had texture he'd forgotten. Reporters asked questions. He said none. The cyclist sister stepped close, hugged him like an old pain finally loosened. "I hope you build something beautiful," she said. He promised to try. Lena waited in the shade, smaller than memory. "I can explain," she whispered. "No," he said softly. "You can testify." The grand jury agreed. Charges were filed, leaving the scene, obstruction, false statements. The hospital placed her on leave. Andrew declined to comment. Revenge is a word that looks sharp until you touch it, and fine law is dull by design. He sharpened the dullness with patience. He filed a civil suit, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, abuse of process. He named no one he didn't need to. He didn't inflate the damages. He asked for what the years cost. Wages he never earned, therapy he would need, the price of being a villain in a story he did not write. Her attorney offered a settlement that would have bought silence. He declined. He wanted a record, not a check. Merciless looked like paper. Deposition is a quiet kind of thunder. Under oath, she was smaller than her resume. The court reporter took down every stammer. Exhibits slid on and off the table like knives and sheaths. The video still, the invoice, the 911 transcript. "Why did you send a wedding invitation to a man you asked to go to prison for you?" His lawyer asked, voice smooth. Lena's answer broke down in 3 parts. Ambition, fear, the lie she fed until it learned to feed itself. "I thought he would understand," she said finally. "I thought love meant sacrifice." "It did," he said. "Mine." A jury found for him. Significant damages, punitive too. He registered the judgment in every county where her name touched property. Liens bloomed like cold flowers. Her salary, once glossy, now trembled as a percentage peeled off for a man she tried to vanish. The medical board opened a review. The hospital foundation scrubbed old posts. Andrew released a statement about focusing on family that forgot to mention hers. Merciless was a revenge a spectacle. It was consequence without anesthesia, a dignity that refused to look away. Isaiah donated a portion to the Cyclist Memorial Fund and slept long for once. He made a record, not a documentary, not a tell-all, but an album titled Habeas. Bass that sounded like doors unlocking. Strings that sounded like letters sliding under steel. The secret track featured a voicemail. Lena's voice begging in pieces at night, pitched and layered until it resembled weather. He didn't name her. He didn't need to. He credited the Innocence Clinic and the bodega owner and his sister. He priced the vinyl cheaply and the digital free for anyone inside. The cover art showed hands in sunlight, not wrists and cuffs. His greatest pettiness was making beauty where she tried to erase him. Lena's trial arrived like winter that doesn't care about calendars. She took a plea. No contest of the counts that made the truth legal. She lost the residency. She kept the license provisional, pending probation and ethics courses. The judge did not scold her. He recited the record like a parent reading a bedtime story with no princess. Outside, in a coat that looked too thin, she tried to speak to Isaiah. He didn't stop walking. Mercy doesn't mean proximity, he thought. Forgiveness could someday be a room he built, but it would not be one she could enter. People asked if he felt better. Better is not a word that fits after prison. He felt accurate. He felt placed correctly on the map again. He bought 2 pairs of shoes, one for church, one for everywhere. He went to therapy and learned to call his nightmares by their names until they lost interest. He walked the belt line and didn't flinch at bikes. He called the cyclist sister on her brother's birthday each year and let her speak first. He and Nia ate lemon pepper wings on Wednesdays and laughed hard enough to complain about the salt. Andrew resurfaced with a new fiancée whose smile could cut a ribbon. Lena moved to another city with a smaller hospital and a longer shadow. The Leans kept taking their measure bite. She sent a letter that wasn't an apology so much as an inventory of what ambition costs when it forgets love is not a coupon. He read it once, then placed it in a file not labeled forgiveness but record. His revenge had already done its work. Her story could no longer pretend to be clean. He didn't need her ruined. He needed the truth to keep breathing. He taught a class at the same Innocence Clinic that wrote his first motion. He told students the law is a ladder and a labyrinth. Carry a map and a pocket knife made of questions. He volunteered inside once a month and played beats through a tiny speaker that made the room hum like a thimbleful of thunder. Men closed their eyes and breathed in time. He never told them to be patient. He told them to be documented. Paper is slow, he said, but paper travels. They nodded, and the nod meant somebody had to hear that sentence today. On a day warm enough to trick the azaleas, Isaiah stood on the steps of a small house with a blue door he bought with checks that had his name spelled right. He turned the key and felt would answer metal like a chord resolving. Revenge had been paperwork, truth, and a ledger that finally balanced. It had not been violence. It had been refusal to let a lie own oxygen. He placed a record on the turntable, let a bass line bloom, and opened the windows. The city breathed with him. Love had not died. It had changed address and kept his name. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.